Losing a loved one. Truly accepting the loss of someone we deeply love is one of the hardest trials we will ever face. It's easy to get lost in shameful thoughts about the regretful things we did or did not do, or the words we said or never got the chance to say to the one who passed away. The key to walking through loss is not to get so lost in our grief and pain that we miss witnessing the loving presence of Allah that embraces us even in the moments that shatter our hearts. Grief has a very holy purpose. Through our feelings of loss, we actualize true gratitude. When we begin to see the depth of our grief is reflecting the depth of love that we felt. The holes that a loved one's spirit once filled go from triggers of sadness and regret to altars of gratitude. The children's book character Winnie the Pooh beautifully illustrates this when he says, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." May we not allow our grief for the loss of a loved one prevent us from being grateful for having had that person in our life as long as we did. Grief is normal, and our faith is not lessened by it. After all, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mourned his wife and the love of his life, Khadija, many years after she passed. Cry the tears you need to cry, but in the midst of your pain, do not forget that your Lord loves you deeply and sees you fully. Do not be afraid, I am with you, all hearing and all seeing. Quran 20:46. No matter how heartbroken we feel over the loss of a loved one, we must remember that Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. When the weight of life seems too heavy to shoulder, it's not because God is trying to break us, but because God is trying to unveil a strength we never knew we had. To better understand this, consider the following. There is a plant called Baker's Globe Mallow that has such a hard shell. One of the only ways it can germinate is through a wildfire. As a result, for more than 100 years, this seed can lie dormant under the soil, not manifesting a single sprout. It's not until a wildfire blazes through the forest, softening and breaking the shell of its seed, that water can reach the core of the plant and germinate it. While most trees, plants, and flowers burn in fire, the baker's globe mallow grows because of the fire. Sometimes the wildfires of pain don't just destroy what we love, they also unveil hidden seeds of beauty and strength within us, what we never knew existed and were unable to manifest in conditions of ease. God sometimes tests us in order to break the shells of our hearts, creating the opportunity for us to manifest into a garden of faith. Just as an egg must break for a bird to be hatched, sometimes God has to keep breaking our hearts until a path to the light is opened. The more we are reminded that our loved ones are gifts given to us by God, the less we will blame God when He takes them back. In its deepest sense, loss is when we give back to God what was never really ours in the first place. Having faith does not mean we don't mourn this loss. It means that despite our sadness, we place our hope in God's promise that death is not an end and that there will come a day when we'll be reunited. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself reminds the lovers of God that all earthly separation is temporary, for in the end you will be with those whom you love. Beyond just mourning for someone we have lost, we are encouraged to give in their name because kindness and charity transcend the barriers of the grave. Doing charity in the name of a loved one not only strengthens the bond between us and them, it also invites their presence into the lives of other people, allowing their legacy to live on beyond their time on earth. Death may separate us from physically witnessing those who have died, but the love we feel in our hearts continues to transform our souls. Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with the heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation. Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun sets, the moon sets, but they are not gone. A candle's flame may die when it burns to the end of its wick, but the light and heat that it gave off lives on, like candles, our bodies may melt away with time, but the seeds of love we planted on earth will continue to flower beyond our finite lives. The ones we have lost are like stars in the sky. Despite having passed away, we continue to experience their light within our lives. It's also important to acknowledge that entangled with our grief of loss of a loved one is often fear about our own eventual departure. Despite the pain of losing someone we love, the hidden blessing is that it is a divine reminder to live more fully, love more fiercely, and to give more freely, for any moment could be our last.